Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on March the 23rd, and it looks like Trudeau is gasping for air over the SNC-Lavelin scandal, and that is going to be our topic for this evening. And a warm welcome to all of you returning to my channel, and a great shout out to any new visitors. And really, I'm going to show you a little clip in a second of Trudeau, and oh boy, you can see his eyes are red. He looks like he hasn't been sleeping properly, and he virtually immediately turns it around into some kind of gobbledygook explanation for diversity within his own party. Now, I don't know how many of you have been following this story, but it centres around SNC-Lavelin, who are a huge engineering company in Quebec, and they are upon corruption charges, having tried to bribe Gaddafi's son for contracts in Libya, and they wanted to try and get what they called a deferred prosecution, so to avoid a full prosecution, which would have meant they wouldn't be able to bid on Canadian contracts. They were going to get a deferred prosecution, and that would mean a fine of some kind, but they could continue to bid. Well, to do this, because the chief prosecutor had already made up the decision not to issue a deferred prosecution, it's alleged by Jody Wilson-Raybould and now Jane Philpott that the Trudeau and his PMO really leaned on Jody Wilson-Raybould to lean on the chief prosecutor to get SNC-Lavelin a deferred prosecution. And so after a resignation, and Jody Wilson-Raybould is now sitting on the backbenches, Jane Philpott, who is the Treasury chairperson, has also resigned her position on the cabinet and also sits as a caucus member now. And anyway, she has just gave this most amazing interview with the Maclean's magazine, saying that yes, there is more to the story than meets the eye, and Jody Wilson-Raybould needs to be allowed to speak, as does she. Now, apparently both these women, because they're still in the caucus, can apparently stand on a point of order and ask the Speaker of the House to speak freely and address these issues. Now, whether they will exercise that or not, well, we'll just have to wait and see. But, you know, I've been wondering, what is the connection between Trudeau and SNC, and why all of this bending over backwards to try and help this company? Apparently there was even legislation being put together that should a company be charged criminally, like SNC-Lavelin, that they still be allowed to bid on contracts within Canada. And I mean, in part, I can understand the position that the government is in. You know, SNC is such a huge company. All they do is work on government contracts. You know, they build highways, they build nuclear power plants, this kind of stuff, like these mega projects. And there are not many companies in Canada, maybe one or two, who could handle the size of the contracts that SNC-Lavelin takes on. But there is a bizarre connection between SNC-Lavelin and the CEO and his wife, who is a treasurer for Stephen Bronfman, who is the chief fundraiser for the Liberal Party. And Trudeau and the Bronfmans are lifelong friends, so there is a bizarre connection there. But all along this whole trail, the explanations have been poor and withering from Trudeau. The committee that was formed allowed Jody Wilson-Raybould to speak, and Trudeau addresses this, and he said, well, we've allowed her to speak. Well, she was only allowed to speak up until the point where she was moved over to Veterans Affairs. So there is a gap there, and she has said there's more of this story to tell, and so has Jane Philpott. And so the committee shut down the committee very quickly. They didn't want to let Jody Wilson-Raybould speak again, even though Michael Wernick, the chief of the Privy Council, got to speak a second time. Okay, so this is all very incestuous, this whole picture. You know, Michael Wernick is connected to another head of the Privy Council who now works for SNC, and they obviously were in close contact with each other, and he received phone calls over all else from all the other people trying to contact him on this issue. He received calls directly from Snc-Lavelin. And so this is just, the Liberal Party is falling apart over this. It looks so much like a cover-up. The two women who are still in the caucus are saying it is a cover-up. And another thing is kind of interesting here, because, you know, Trudeau, if he were a strong Prime Minister, he would have asked these two women to leave the caucus, because they have basically shown quite clearly that they do not feel confident in the government or in Trudeau and his leadership. Well, no Prime Minister can stand that within his own party, because it would cause so much division, and people would side with one or two of these women and against Trudeau possibly. So the fact that he hasn't ejected them tells me that he is scared to death of making that move, because, you know, if he ejects them, the media are going to be all over this, as they are anyway, because of course Trudeau has come across as this ultra feminist. And these are two women, one of colour, and a third woman now has stepped away. She's now sitting in as an independent, and she said that Trudeau was angry with her and shouted at her, and she is a woman of colour. This is Selena Cesar-Chivanas, and so yeah, she was so disgusted with the whole thing that she now sits as an independent and won't even be a Liberal. Now, she was not in cabinet and she was stepping down for personal reasons, but she said she was handled pretty roughly and rudely by Justin Trudeau when, you know, she told him that she didn't want to run again. And he said, you know, accused her of running away and letting him down and all the things that he'd done for her and blah, blah, blah. So this is going to dog Trudeau through this entire year. And, you know, he could have shut this down so simply. Anyway, let's take a look at these clips that I have, and then we'll come back and do a very quick wrap-up. Okie dokie, here we go. This from Global News. Trudeau rejects Philpott's warning that there is much more to the SNC-Lavelin affair Canadians must hear. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is rejecting the assertion by one of his former cabinet ministers that there was much more to the story that needs to be told when it comes to exactly what went down in the Snc-Lavelin affair. The interview with Maclean's magazine published Thursday morning, former President of the Treasury Board Jane Philpott explained her decision to resign as a cabinet member and said that there's been an attempt to shut down the story by Trudeau and his advisers. At issue is the claim by former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould that she was subject to a consistent and sustained effort between September and December 2018 to pressure her into changing her decision not to intervene in the criminal case of Snc-Lavelin to help the Montreal firm escape a potential conviction for corruption charges. Trudeau said in his view, Wilson-Raybould has been allowed to speak already. Okay, so just to set this up a little bit, Justin Trudeau is being asked about the two women, Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott, who are still in this caucus, and how he feels about the situation. But I know they're a little blurry in the background, but just have half an eye on the movement in the background of these people. They are shifting from foot to foot. They're not even looking at Justin Trudeau. These are obviously props, and they look very uncomfortable indeed, and many of them are looking skyward or like I say completely away from the camera, and some of them look as if they could bolt. They absolutely would. Here we go.
MPs in your caucus who continue to damage your party.
One of the things that has always been a strength of the Liberal Party of Canada, and certainly has been a contrast from the way that Stephen Harper and the Conservatives managed their government, managed their caucus, managed their approach to democracy,
deflection.
Is we recognize the diversity of perspectives, of experiences, of opinions is extraordinarily important if we're going to fully reflect the extraordinary diversity of Canadians. That's why we loosened the rules around whipped votes, why we encourage committees to continue to do their work independently, and why we recognize that within a same party we can have absolutely differences of opinion. But on the big things, the matters of investing in the middle class, moving forward on reconciliation, protecting our environment and growing our economy at the same time, everyone in the Liberal Party believes in that, understands that that's a priority, and understands that having Andrew Scheer determine the direction for this country would pull us backwards in a whole bunch of different ways. And that's why we are pleased to have a diversity of voices within the Liberal Party.
Trudeau waived cabinet confidentiality and solicitor-client privilege following intense pressure from critics demanding answers to the allegations. But the waiver for Wilson-Raybould only allowed her to speak about what happened while she was Attorney General. So here is this connection. The wife of SNC-Lavelin CEO is a director of the company that manages the personal wealth of Trudeau's chief fundraiser and longtime friend, billionaire Stephen Bronfman. And here we have Neil Bruce, SNC-Lavelin CEO, his wife Emma Griffin, Stephen Bronfman fundraiser, and Justin Trudeau Prime Minister. And here we go, the ties that bind the Liberals and the Bronfmans, Macleans.ca. The opposition is questioning the Bronfman family's connection to the Liberal Party. It's been happening for 100 years. So there is a very, very, very deep connection between SNC-Lavelin and Justin Trudeau, the Trudeau Foundation, and the Trudeau family in general. And look at this next tweet. You mean Stephen Offshore Trust Bronfman, the one in the Panama Papers and the Canada Revenue Agency refuses to investigate? Oh yes, the ties that bind. So it really does look like Trudeau there is grasping at straws, and I hope you noticed how quickly he changed the subject and moved it on to praise diversity and yes, we want differing voices within our caucus and so on and so forth, and completely dodged the whole SNC-Lavelin issue and why they stepped down as cabinet ministers. So like I say, this whole thing stinks to high heaven. Trudeau could easily have basically wrapped this all up very, very early on by just admitting the mistake and saying, look, we were concerned with the 9,000 jobs. We thought that was an issue, although that has been now denied by SNC-Lavelin. But, it would seem plausible. Just admit that you made a mistake and, say, sorry, we won't do that again. We were really thinking about the jobs and that's that and all about it. But no, they dug their heels in for some reason. And I think it is this weird connection with the Bronfmans and the wife of the head of SNC-Lavelin. And a friend of mine has actually made another bizarre connection between Claire Bronfman and Nexium, and a possible connection there with SNC-Lavelin. So that has yet to play out. I am following her quite closely. Her name is Amazing Polly, if you want to go there. She is absolutely fantastic. Great research, great research. Okay, well that's about it. We'll be watching this as we go along, and as I say, it is getting pretty wild out there. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below, and click that big red button. It really does help when you do. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off and wishing you a great weekend, and we will talk to you very, very soon. You take care now. See ya. Bye.